Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today with a message that is not just urgent but eternal, a message that calls for the opening of our eyes, the awakening of our hearts, and the deep stirring of our souls. The world is filled with voices that shout, whisper, and entice. They promise fulfillment, success, and happiness. Yet so many who chase after these promises find themselves empty, burdened, and lost. The question I bring to you today is simple, yet it carries the weight of eternity. Are you blind to the truth? We live in an age where truth has become a matter of personal interpretation. We are told that truth is relative, that it shifts with time and culture, that what is true for one may not be true for another. But I ask you, does the sun rise in the east only for some? Does water quench thirst only for a select few? Truth is not shaped by our feelings. It is not molded by our desires. Truth stands unshaken, unmoved, and unchangeable. And yet, many walk in darkness, refusing to see what is right before them. There was a time when people trembled at the word of truth, when hearts were softened by conviction, and when men and women would fall to their knees in recognition of their need for something greater than themselves. But today we see a world that rejects truth, scoffs at conviction, and hardens itself against the light. The blindness is not of the eyes, but of the soul. It is a blindness that does not come from a lack of intelligence or education. It is a chosen blindness, a willing rejection of what is clear and evident. Think of a man standing before a mirror, his face smudged with dirt. The mirror does not lie. It reflects exactly what is there. But what if the man, instead of washing his face, smashes the mirror and declares that the dirt never existed? Does his denial make the dirt disappear? Of course not. And yet this is what so many do with the truth. Instead of acknowledging it, they reject it. Instead of embracing it, they fight against it. Instead of being changed by it, they seek to silence it. But the truth does not fade simply because men close their eyes to it. It does not diminish because the world wishes it away. The truth remains, and it calls to those who will listen. It is a light that shines in the darkness, though the darkness has tried to overcome it. And you, my friends, must ask yourselves today, have I been blind to the truth? Have I turned away from what is real in favor of what is comfortable? Have I ignored the voice that calls me out of the shadows and into the light? Some will say that truth is a burden too heavy to bear, that it brings with it guilt and sorrow, that it disrupts the life they have built for themselves. But I tell you today that truth does not come to burden you. It comes to set you free. It does not come to destroy, but to heal. It does not come to cast you away, but to call you home. Yet many refuse to see because they love the darkness more than the light. Look around you. Look at the world today. Does it seem like a world that has embraced truth, or does it seem like a world that is lost, confused, and searching? We have more knowledge than ever before, yet people are emptier than they have ever been. We have access to endless entertainment, yet people feel more alone. We have luxuries, conveniences, and pleasures beyond measure, yet people are filled with despair. Why? Because they have closed their eyes to what truly matters. You can have the whole world, but if you do not have truth, you have nothing. You can have wealth, power, and influence, but if you are blind to what is real, you are more impoverished than the poorest beggar on the street. What good is it to gain everything and lose the very essence of your soul? Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you today to open your eyes. Do not be among those who walk in darkness. Do not be among those who ignore the call of truth until it is too late. The time will come when every eye will be opened, when every knee will bow, and when the truth that has been denied will stand undeniable before all. But for many, that day will come too late. The chance to see, to turn, to change will have passed. Do not wait until it is too late. Do not close your eyes when the light is shining before you. Do not reject the truth simply because it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. Truth is not meant to be convenient. It is meant to change you. It is meant to wake you up from the slumber of complacency. It is meant to rescue you from the blindness that leads to destruction. I urge you, examine your heart. Ask yourself, have I been blind to the truth? Have I ignored what I know deep down to be real? Have I clung to falsehoods because they were easier, safer, or more comfortable? If so, today is the day to open your eyes. Today is the day to turn from darkness to light. Today is the day to embrace what is real and never let it go. The world will tell you that you do not need truth, that you can create your own reality, that you are the master of your own destiny. But I tell you today that the world is lying to you. The world will promise you freedom while placing chains around your soul. It will promise you joy while leading you into despair. It will promise you fulfillment while leaving you empty. Do not be deceived. Do not be blind. Open your eyes while there is still time. And so I leave you with this plea. Look, see, turn. Do not walk in darkness any longer. Do not be among those who, when the truth is revealed in its fullness, cry out in regret, saying, if only I had known. Because the truth has been before you all along. The light has been shining. The call has been made. The only question that remains is, will you see it? Will you embrace it? Will you walk in the light? Or will you remain blind to the truth? I pray that you will choose to see. I pray that you will open your heart to what is real. I pray that when the time comes, you will stand among those who have been set free by truth, rather than among those who weep because they have rejected it. May your eyes be opened today. May your heart be awakened, and may you never again be blind to the truth. The world is full of distractions designed to keep you from seeing clearly. Every day you are bombarded with messages that tell you what to think, how to feel, and where to place your trust. The noise is deafening, and if you are not careful, you will become numb to the only voice that matters. Think of the traveler lost in a dense forest, surrounded by voices calling from every direction. Some promise safety, others offer shortcuts, but only one voice speaks the truth, the voice that leads to the way out. But if the traveler is too busy listening to the lies, he will never find his way. So many today are like that traveler, wandering, confused, searching for something real, but never finding it because they are blind to the truth that has been right before them all along. How did we get here? How did we reach a point where truth is despised and deception is celebrated, where right is called wrong and wrong is called right? It did not happen overnight. It happened because people closed their eyes, little by little, to what was real. It happened because small compromises led to bigger ones. It happened because the world convinced people that they could decide for themselves what truth should be, rather than submit to what truth already is. It is a dangerous thing to harden your heart against the truth. It is a dangerous thing to shut your eyes when the light is shining. You may think you are in control of your blindness, that you can choose to see when you are ready, but the longer you stay in darkness, the harder it becomes to find your way back. The longer you reject truth, the easier it becomes to believe the lie. And one day, without realizing it, you will find yourself so deep in deception that you no longer know how to escape. But there is hope. As long as you have breath, there is hope. As long as your heart still beats, there is a chance to see again. But it requires something of you. It requires humility. It requires the willingness to admit that you have been blind. It requires the courage to turn away from what is false and step into what is true. This is not easy. It has never been easy. The world will not celebrate you for it. In fact, the world will fight against you. It will mock you, ridicule you, and call you a fool. It will tell you that you are wrong, that you are outdated, that you are out of touch with reality. But remember this: the world has always opposed the truth. It has always resisted the light, and yet the truth remains. The light continues to shine. There have always been those who were willing to stand for truth, even when the world rejected them. They were not the most powerful, not the most famous, not the wealthiest, But they were the ones who saw clearly, who refused to be blinded by lies. They were the ones who stood firm when others wavered. And in the end, they were the ones who found life, while those who followed the lies found only destruction. Which path will you take? Will you continue to walk in blindness, ignoring the truth that calls out to you? Or will you open your eyes and see? Will you have the courage to stand for what is real, even when it costs you something? Because make no mistake, there is a price for truth. But the price of rejecting truth is far greater. Some of you may be thinking, but I am not blind. I see clearly. I know what is true. But I challenge you today, do you really? Have you examined your heart? Have you tested what you believe against what is real? Or have you simply accepted what is easy, what is comfortable, what fits your desires? Because true sight does not come from looking at the world through your own lens. It comes from aligning yourself with what is eternal, unshaken, and unchanging. There will come a day when all blindness will be removed, when every deception will be exposed, when every hidden thing will be brought into the light. On that day, there will be no more arguments, no more debates, no more excuses. The truth will stand undeniable, and every eye will see. But for many, that day will come too late. For many, the chance to turn, to change, to see will be gone. Do not wait until it is too late. Do not be among those who cry out in regret, wishing they had opened their eyes sooner. Today is the day to see. Today is the day to choose truth over lies, light over darkness, sight over blindness. And so I ask you again, are you blind to the truth, or will you see? If you can hear my voice today, if these words are stirring something deep within you, then I urge you, do not ignore this moment. Do not let it pass by as just another speech, another fleeting thought, another message quickly forgotten. This is a call, not from me, but from truth itself, reaching out to you, pleading with you to see before it is too late. There is a war being waged, and it is not a war of flesh and blood. It is a war for your heart, for your mind, for your very soul. Every day you are being pulled in two directions, toward truth or toward deception, toward light or toward darkness, toward life or toward destruction. And whether you realize it or not, every choice you make, every belief you accept, every path you follow is leading you closer to one or the other. Some will say, I do not choose a side, I simply live my life. But let me tell you today, there is no neutral ground in this battle. To refuse to choose truth is by default to choose blindness. To ignore the light is to remain in darkness. You cannot walk both roads. You cannot serve two masters. Either you will open your eyes or you will remain blind. Either you will embrace what is real or you will cling to what is false, and one day that choice will be made final. You may say, but I do not feel blind. I see clearly. I am intelligent, educated, well-informed. How can you say that I am blind? But I ask you, if the foundation of what you believe is built on shifting sand, if what you hold on to is rooted in deception, does it matter how intelligent you are? Does it matter how educated you are? A man may have all the knowledge in the world, but if he is standing on a foundation that will crumble beneath him, his knowledge will not save him. True sight is not about intellect. It is not about worldly wisdom. It is about recognizing that there is something greater than yourself, something higher than your own understanding. It is about being willing to let go of what is false, even if it costs you everything. But many will not do this. Many will cling to their blindness because they fear what the truth will require of them. They do not want to be uncomfortable. They do not want to admit that they were wrong. They do not want to surrender the things they have built their lives upon, even if those things are leading them to destruction. And so they close their eyes tighter, they harden their hearts further. They surround themselves with voices that tell them what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. But I tell you today, truth is not something to be feared. Truth is not your enemy. Truth is your only hope. Yes, it may be painful at first. Yes, it may shatter the illusions you have held on to. Yes, it may call you to leave behind the things that once defined you. But in the end, it will bring you life. It will bring you freedom. It will bring you into a reality far greater than anything you have ever known. History is filled with examples of those who rejected truth, who refused to see until it was too late. Entire civilizations have crumbled because they abandoned what was real in favor of what was convenient. People who had every opportunity to see chose instead to remain blind, and their blindness led to their downfall. And yet there have always been those who saw. There have always been those who refused to be deceived, who stood for what was right even when it cost them everything. They were mocked, ridiculed, cast out, and sometimes even killed. But in the end, they were the ones who truly lived. They were the ones who left behind a legacy of light in a world of darkness. And so I ask you again, which side will you stand on? Will you be counted among those who remain blind, who close their eyes, who reject what is right before them? Or will you be among those who see, who walk in the light, who embrace the truth no matter the cost? Do not think you have all the time in the world. Do not assume that you can wait until tomorrow to decide. The opportunity to see is given to you today, right now, this moment. You do not know what tomorrow will bring. You do not know if you will have another chance. I urge you, do not let this moment pass you by. Do not turn away. Do not remain blind when the truth is calling you to see. There is an urgency to this message, not because I say so, but because time itself is running short. The world is not moving toward peace and harmony. It is racing toward chaos, confusion, and despair. You can see it in the headlines, in the conflicts between nations, in the hearts of men and women who are restless, searching, but never satisfied. People try to numb themselves with distractions, drown out the questions in their hearts with noise, but deep down, they know something is missing. They know something is wrong. Why is there so much brokenness? Why does humanity, despite all its advancements, still find itself lost, divided, and filled with turmoil? It is not a problem of politics. It is not a problem of economics. It is not even a problem of culture. It is a problem of blindness. It is the result of a world that has turned away from truth, chosen its own way, and walked further and further into darkness. If you were lost in a cave surrounded by pitch black darkness, what would you do? Would you try to feel your way through, stumbling over rocks, crashing into walls, hoping that eventually you would find your way out? Or would you cry out for help, waiting for someone with a light to come and lead you? The world today is like that cave, and too many people are blindly feeling their way through, refusing to admit that they need help. They tell themselves they can figure it out on their own. They convince themselves that they will eventually find their way. But all the while, they are only going deeper into the darkness. You do not have to stay in that darkness. You do not have to remain blind. There is a way out, but you must be willing to take it. You must be willing to acknowledge that you cannot find the way on your own. You must be willing to surrender your own ideas of what is true and accept the truth that has been there all along. But what will you do? Will you continue to harden your heart? Will you continue to walk in blindness, convincing yourself that you can see? Or will you humble yourself, open your eyes, and step into the light? Some of you may feel a stirring inside, a deep recognition that what I am saying is true. You may not fully understand it, but you feel it. Do not ignore that feeling. Do not suppress it. It is a call to wake up, to see, to turn away from the blindness that has held you captive for so long. And yet there will be others who scoff, who dismiss these words as foolishness, who shake their heads and walk away unchanged. I do not say this because I am bitter, but because it has always been this way. Throughout history, people have been given the choice, truth or deception, sight or blindness, light or darkness, and many have chosen to remain blind. But that does not have to be your story. That does not have to be your fate. Today you have a choice. Today you have an opportunity to see. But you must take that step. You must be willing to admit that you have been blind. You must be willing to let go of everything that has kept you from the truth. Do not let pride keep you from seeing. Do not let fear hold you back. Do not let the opinions of the world stop you from embracing what is real. Because in the end, when all is said and done, when everything else fades away, the only thing that will matter is whether or not you saw the truth and responded to it. And so once more, I ask you, are you blind to the truth, or will you open your eyes today? The choice before you is not just a philosophical one. It is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is a matter of life and death, of destiny and eternity. You may think that this world is all there is, that your time here is long, that you have years ahead to think about these things. But time is not promised to anyone. Life is but a vapor, appearing for a moment and then vanishing away. The question is not whether you will face the truth someday. The question is whether you will face it before it is too late. Look around you. Look at the state of the world. Do you really believe that humanity is progressing towards something better? Do you truly believe that mankind left to its own devices will bring about peace, justice, and righteousness? History proves otherwise. Every civilization that has rejected truth has collapsed under the weight of its own corruption. Every society that has chosen blindness over sight has paid the price, and today the world is following the same path. We live in an age where people call good evil and evil good, where the very foundations of truth are being torn apart, where people no longer seek what is real but only what satisfies their own desires, and yet, despite all our advancements, despite all our technology, despite all our knowledge, we are more lost than ever. Anxiety, depression, confusion, and despair are at an all-time high. People have more information than ever before, but they have never been more blind. Why? Because truth is not found in knowledge alone. It is not discovered through reason alone. It is something deeper. It is something that must be received with an open heart. And so many today have hardened their hearts against it. They do not want truth because truth requires change. Truth requires humility. Truth requires surrender, and they would rather remain blind than admit that they need to see. But I say to you today, do not be among them. Do not be counted among those who had the opportunity to see but refused. Do not be one of those who ignored the call, who closed their ears and shut their eyes, who hardened their hearts until it was too late. There is a day coming when all blindness will be removed, when every deception will be stripped away, when every falsehood will be exposed. On that day, there will be no more excuses, no more debates, no more time to reconsider. The truth will stand in its fullness, undeniable and absolute, and in that moment you will either rejoice that you saw it while you still could, or you will weep in regret that you ignored it when it was calling out to you. But you do not have to wait until that day. You can choose to see now. You can choose to open your eyes today. But you must be willing. You must be ready to lay down everything that has kept you blind. You must be willing to humble yourself, to acknowledge that you do not have all the answers, that you cannot find the way on your own. Do not harden your heart. Do not turn away. Do not ignore the voice that is calling you to open your eyes, because the opportunity before you will not last forever. Time is running out. The window is closing. The chance to see is now. And so I ask you once more, are you blind to the truth, or will you finally open your eyes and see? The weight of this question is not one to be taken lightly. It is not one to be brushed aside as if it holds no consequence, because to remain blind is not simply to live in ignorance. It is to walk a path that leads to destruction. And the tragedy is that so many willfully choose this path, even as the truth is shining before them, beckoning them to turn around before it is too late. You may think you have all the time in the world. You may believe that the decision to see can wait for another day. But let me remind you, time does not wait for anyone. You do not know what tomorrow holds. You do not even know what the next hour may bring. How many have thought they had more time, only to find that time had already slipped away? How many have planned for a future they never lived to see? Do not be deceived. Do not believe the lie that says you can delay this decision indefinitely. The longer you remain blind, the harder it becomes to see. The longer you reject the truth, the more difficult it becomes to accept. And one day, if you resist long enough, you may find that you no longer hear the voice calling you. You may find that your heart has grown too hard, your eyes too darkened, your mind too clouded to recognize what was once so clear. The world will not encourage you to open your eyes. The world will tell you that blindness is freedom, that deception is truth, that darkness is light. It will do everything in its power to keep you from seeing. It will distract you, entertain you, feed you with endless information, and drown you in temporary pleasures, all to keep you from recognizing what is real. Because the moment you see, the moment your eyes are opened, the world loses its grip on you. The moment you embrace the truth, you are no longer a slave to the lies. But seeing comes with a cost. It always has. Those who see are never embraced by the world. They are mocked, ridiculed, rejected. They are labeled as fools, as outdated, as enemies of progress, because the world does not want truth. It wants comfort. It wants ease. It wants blindness. Yet, despite the cost, those who see are the only ones who are truly free. They are the only ones who walk in peace, who stand firm when everything else crumbles, who do not fear what is to come, because they are rooted in what is eternal. They are not swayed by the shifting tides of opinion, nor shaken by the storms of life, because their foundation is unshakable, their eyes are open, and they will never again be deceived. And so I ask you, will you be one of them? Will you have the courage to open your eyes, to step out of the darkness, to embrace the truth, no matter the cost? Or will you remain where you are, comfortable in blindness, ignoring the warnings, refusing to see until it is too late? I plead with you, do not let another moment pass in blindness. Do not ignore this call. Do not turn away from the truth that is standing before you. This may be your last chance. This may be your final opportunity to see. Do not waste it. The time is now. The choice is yours. Will you remain blind or will you see? The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. This is not just another speech, not just another message to be heard and forgotten. This is a warning, a plea, a cry for you to wake up before it is too late. Because the truth is not something that waits patiently forever. It is calling you now. But if you ignore it, if you turn away, there may come a day when you can no longer hear its voice. How many people have lived their lives thinking they had time, believing they could wait until a more convenient moment to face the truth? How many have put off the decision, telling themselves they would consider it later, only for later to never come? The graveyards are full of people who thought they had more time, and one day each of us will join them. None of us know when that day will be, but there is something far worse than physical death. There is a blindness that goes beyond the eyes, a darkness that consumes more than just the body. To remain blind to the truth is to walk toward a fate far worse than anything this world can throw at you. It is to step into eternity unprepared, unaware, and lost. I do not say this to frighten you. I say it because it is real, because I care too much to leave you in blindness without warning you of what is ahead. If you knew that a bridge ahead had collapsed and that anyone who crossed it would fall to their death, would you not shout? Would you not plead with those walking toward it to turn around? And yet many would still ignore the warning. They would say, I see the path before me and it looks fine. They would trust in their own sight, in their own judgment, in their own understanding, until they took that final step and realized, too late, that they were wrong. Do not be one of them. Do not let your pride, your stubbornness, or your fear keep you from seeing what is right before you. Do not trust in your own ability to navigate life when you are walking in blindness. Open your eyes, see the truth. Some of you may feel a struggle within you right now, a battle between what you have always believed and what you are hearing now, a war between holding on to the familiar or stepping into something greater. Do not ignore that struggle. It is the sign that truth is knocking at the door of your heart, but you must choose to open it. No one can do it for you. You may ask, but what if I open my eyes and do not like what I see? What if the truth demands something of me that I am not ready to give? That is the very question that keeps so many in blindness. They fear what sight will require of them. They fear what it will cost. Yes, truth has a cost. It always has. It may cost you your comfort. It may cost you your old way of life. It may even cost you relationship status or acceptance in a world that rejects what is real. But whatever it costs, it is worth it, because what you gain is far greater. What you receive is worth more than anything you could lose. Those who remain blind may gain the approval of the world for a season, but it will not last. They may live as they please for a time, but it will not satisfy. And when the illusions fade, when the distractions are gone, they will be left empty, searching, and ultimately lost. But those who choose to see, those who embrace the truth, though their path may be difficult, though their journey may come with trials, will have something that cannot be shaken. They will stand on solid ground when the storms come. They will walk in light when the rest of the world stumbles in darkness. They will know peace in a world filled with turmoil. And so once again I ask you, will you continue in blindness? Will you shut your eyes, turn away, and pretend that you do not hear the call of truth? Or will you open your eyes today, step into the light, and walk forward in the reality that you were always meant to know? The choice is yours. The time is now, but do not wait too long, because the opportunity before you will not last forever. The weight of this decision is eternal. It is not simply about this life, though it certainly affects every moment of your existence here. It is about what comes after, about what is waiting beyond the limits of time. The blindness of this world is not just temporary darkness, it is a deception that leads to destruction. And the greatest tragedy of all is that so many walk willingly toward it, refusing to see, even as the light stands before them. You may think, I will wait, I will decide later, but later is never guaranteed. The moments slip by, the days pass, and the heart that once felt the pull of truth slowly grows harder. Every time you push the truth away, it becomes easier to ignore. Every time you turn your back on it, your blindness deepens, until one day you no longer hear the call at all. I plead with you, do not let that happen. Do not silence the voice inside you that is telling you to wake up. Do not numb yourself to the reality that is before you. There is a way out of blindness, but you must be willing to take it. You must be willing to surrender your own understanding, your own pride, your own sense of control, and accept the truth that has been there all along. Some of you may be wrestling with doubt. Some of you may be thinking, but how do I know what is true? How do I know I am not simply trading one form of blindness for another? I tell you this, truth is not something you create. It is not something you define. It is not something that changes with time, culture, or opinion. Truth is absolute, unshakable, and eternal. And when you step into it, when you finally see, you will know. Because the blindness that once clouded your vision will be gone, and you will see the world, yourself, and everything around you with clarity for the first time. But do not think that seeing is the end of the journey. No, it is only the beginning. When you step into the truth, your life will change, your heart will change, your very being will be transformed, and the world will not understand it. The world will resist you. The world will try to pull you back into blindness. It will mock you, reject you, and tell you that you are the one who has been deceived. But you must stand firm. You must hold fast to what you now see, because those who walk in the truth do not walk alone. They are upheld, strengthened, and guided by a power greater than themselves. They are given sight, not only to see the world as it is, but to walk through it with purpose, confidence, and hope. The blind stumble, the blind are tossed by every wind, swayed by every lie, led astray by every deception. But those who see stand unmoved, those who see walk in the light, and those who see, though the world may hate them, possess a peace that the world cannot take away. I ask you now, one last time, are you blind to the truth, or will you open your eyes today? Because the truth is here. The light is shining, and the choice is yours.